The Power Factor Show with Rick, Steve, and Caleb. Episode 42.
Gun Rights Radio Network has the best pro-Second Amendment, pro-gun rights podcast available on the net. The podcasts are absolutely free when subscribing using iTunes or Zune Marketplace. Or if you want, you can just listen from the website. Make sure you visit gunrightsradio.com to subscribe. Podcasting freedom, one episode at a time.
Brought to you by Safariland.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to Power Factor. I'm Steve.
I'm Rick.
I'm actually back from the nude beaches of Spain. It was, let me just put it this way. Just because you could doesn't mean you should.
I've heard that about nude beaches before.
I saw a lot of things I wish I'd not seen, so
Good.
Yeah, right.
Good. And there's no video, right?
No, there's no video.
Okay, good.
No video of that.
Okay.
Thankfully very much. So,
Right.
Anyway, today we're going to talk about our Safariland equipment that we received from Safariland. But first I wanted to close up a couple of points here that we've made here in past episodes. So in one of the episodes, I asked a trivia question of what radio personality used a song which was called "The Bear Vista Train," and as part of his radio program. And there were actually two different radio broadcasters who used that. However, I dropped two very important clues which would zero you in on the right person. So the right person is actually Gene Shepard with WOR Radio in New York. The two clues I dropped were that I was going to award the brass figlugi with bronze oak leaf palms, which is something that Gene would typically use as his quote-unquote award for some of his trivia questions that he would have on the program. The other one is I made the comment, "Excelsior, you fathead." Well, "Excelsior, you fathead" was actually kind of like a secret code word for people who were fans, I should say, of the program. So as an example, there was a restaurant called Chen's, or House of Chen's, that was located down in the theater district in New York. And the thing was is that you would walk in there and you'd say to the head waiter and you look at him straight in the eye and go, "Excelsior, you fathead." And you go, "Oh, very good, thank you very much." And he would take you to the special part of the restaurant and made sure you got really good service and got out of there in good time, because again, it's in the theater district in New York, so people were going to Broadway shows and stuff like that. So
Good to know.
So Don, who also goes by, I think it was Buckskin Run, was the first person to respond with the correct answer. The other answers that came in were Al Jasbo Collins, who apparently was a radio personality, I think, in California, who also used it, but Gene Shepard was the answer I was looking for. And the other thing I wanted to close the loop on was on the episode that we were talking about reloading. At some point I talked about reloading shotgun shells and mentioned that I could reload shotgun shells for roughly about $3.80 a box, and we were kind of comparing about, in shotgun you don't really have the savings that you normally see compared to metallic. That
Right.
Metallic you're probably going to save at least probably 60%. Anyway,
Go ahead.
yeah, about 60% over what you would end up buying ammunition in the store. And the numbers I threw were, roughly I can reload for $3.80, but if you went out and got a really good deal on shot shells, you can typically find stuff around maybe $5 a box or something like that. Well, John Larson, who John is...
Everybody knows John.
Everybody knows John. John is the guy, if you don't remember who John was, John is the guy who is our favorite gunsmith who did the section on open guns. Hi, John. But anyway, John is also an avid shotgunner, and John knows a little bit about what I'm reloading, and he pointed out that the type of components that I'm using what's called Magnum shot, which is a very hard shot, and then also a really good high-quality wad, compared to like the promo loads or whatever that you would end up buying, which usually have like a really soft shot and not a very good wad or whatever. The type of loads that I'm running are equivalent to, let's say, a Winchester AA or a Remington STS, which run about like $8 or $9 a box. So it's true that I'm paying considerably less than that, but to be honest, I would not go out and spend $9 on a box of shotgun shells and get the AA or the STS. I'd go cheap, since I'm a cheap son of a bitch as it is, and go out and buy the promo stuff that runs for $5 a box. So I guess I'm getting the benefit of a more premium round for roughly the same price you would say pay for the cheap stuff. So At any rate, and I also wanted to say that you probably noticed a lot of, recently I've been making comments about shotgun shooting and whatnot. My interest to a certain degree over the last few months have kind of shifted from pistol shooting back towards shotgun. I guess they say that when you get old, you kind of revert back to your childhood. Well, in my case, I started out shotgun shooting as a kid, hunting with my dad with a Remington Model 31 and 16 gauge of all things. So I'm kind of back to, I guess I'm revisiting my childhood, so to speak, and kind of back to doing shotguns again and everything. So I'm starting out with trap and eventually going to work my way up to sporting clays and stuff like that. So at any rate, I think that ties up all the past things there. And now we're going to talk about our Safariland gear that we have. So let's go first.
Okay. What I have, some people think the word got should be removed from the English language. What I have is the Safariland Model 567, and I ordered it to fit my Browning High Power, which I had intended to shoot in IDPA competition this summer. And what I noticed about the 567 is that it's called custom fit. And what I thought that meant at the time I ordered it was that each holster was custom fit to the gun that you specified it for. Yeah. That's what you'd think. Well, when I got the package, it said, custom fit for Browning High Power, Colt Government Model, Beretta 92, and I'm like going, well, how can it be custom fit to all those different guns? Because the High Power, at least through the slide, is quite a bit slimmer than a 1911, and the 92 is even bigger than the 1911 in a lot of dimensions. So I was trying to figure out how could it be custom fit for all these different guns. And what they have is a number of adjustments to make the gun custom fit to the gun that you want to put in here. So the holster is adjusted now to fit the High Power, and by turning the adjustment screws, you could make it fit a 1911 or whatever you want.
So that's basically what you do is adjust the screws to make
you
it
custom fit it to the gun that you want to put in there.
You're a custom holster maker.
So that's well, I guess, yeah. And it's made of mostly synthetic materials, kind of flexible, stiff but somewhat flexible plastics, and then it's suede lined, which is kind of nice. One of the knocks on modern Kydex holsters is that they tend to have hot spots on the inside that bear very heavily on just a certain few spots on the gun, and after putting your gun into and out of the holster a dozen times or so, if you've got a blued gun, it will have worn a hole down to bare metal, and if you've got a stainless gun, it'll sometimes leave plastic deposits on the stainless and whatnot. And so having this nice suede lining is friendly on the finish. This gun has an epoxy finish over a parkerizing base, and there's just a little kind of a shiny spot showing up on the bottom of the dust cover, but other than that, and that actually comes from the part of the adjustable part of the holster that's not suede covered. One of the the thing that kind of confounded me about the way the holster adjustment works is that most holsters have a way of adjusting them this way, kind of pinching them to adjust how difficult or easy it is to get the gun out of the holster. But what this gun also has is right here, there's this plastic block set into the just below the trigger guard, and it's got what I would call a plunger. It's kind of a plastic piece that's threaded, and so as you turn that screw in, it's kind of pushing the gun this way, and so you've got the pinching action of these two screws, and then this block kind of pushing the slide up against the top of the holster. So when you get those things adjusted, you get a fit that's not sloppy at all, but the gun comes out. Now I've actually got this adjusted fairly tight.
Let's say it comes out pretty loose.
Well, I mean, you can hear it.
Yeah.
You can hear it dragging in there.
Yeah.
And by backing these screws off, you can loosen it some more. But the problem is then it'll first start to rock this way if this one is loosened. And if you loosen these, then it's kind of flexible this way.
Right.
And I kind of have it locked down there in the interest of not having it move around. And so I was really pleasantly surprised by, just it is kind of a custom fit in that you can adjust the retention level, how hard and how easy it is to get out. Now I bought it specifically for IDPA use. The IDPA rules dictate that the ejection port cannot be below the middle of the belt, and it looks like this is just about exactly as low as it could possibly be and fulfill that requirement. So it rides quite a bit lower than the belt or the holster that I'm used to using, but it's right at the lower limit. Anything lower than this wouldn't fly for IDPA. I think for USPSA,
that's more than legal.
Well, I know in single stack they have by name banned the drop offset holster made by Blade Tech, and I don't know if any other holster that I don't know how low. If it's a matter of it's just too low, or we just don't like that holster, or what the deal is.
I can't recall what the exact rule is in USPSA single stack of where it has something to do with some part of the holster or whatever relative to the belt. Because normally most of the rules in USPSA is that the top of the butt can't be any lower than the top of the belt.
Yeah, and
but
this
apparently for single stack, maybe it's something to do with the front strap or something. I'd have to pull the rule book up. I don't pay attention to it enough to
memorize it.
Yeah.
So we've got our 567 threaded onto a model 851 belt. It's a fairly thick leather belt, smooth leather on both sides, and it's got the contoured shape. It's not flat. It's got this rounded shape. Nice belt. I mean, it's the holster will accommodate the 1.5-inch belt, or you can also, it looks like, break these little tabs off here, and it'll hold a 1 3/4-inch belt.
Yeah, that's one thing that probably can't be overemphasized enough is getting a good quality belt. I mean, a lot of times you'll see this that people will go out and they get a really nice holster and they'll put it on a really flimsy dress belt. The thing flops around and stuff like that. So getting yourself a really good, solid, sturdy belt, it's a system. I mean, the holster and the belt are a system together, and you really need to match it. I mean, you don't go out and put little bicycle tires on your 400 horsepower Corvette.
That's true. That's true.
Unless they're in front and you're drag racing.
Well, exactly. Yeah, and you're in a drag race. Yeah, but as a set, it works really well. I mean, the belt is matched to the holster. This belt also thoughtfully has a handcuff key built into the buckle end, and there's actually was a second handcuff key. Yeah, you never know what's going to happen in an IDPA match. Second handcuff key here. So for law enforcement, you've got your handcuff keys. I took this one out because I'm constantly threading the mag pouches and stuff onto the belt, and it was just kind of in the way. But anyway, so I shot most of the summer, probably 6 or 8 IDPA matches, including the sanctioned match that we had in August. And I like the holster a lot. I mean, most of the guns that I own would fit in this holster if I did the custom adjustments on it. I think besides the Beretta and high power 1911, I suspect you could also get probably a CZ75 and its derivatives in there. So it's pretty versatile. I like the adjustability, both in terms of adjusting how tight it is in the holster, as well as just the general fit. As you can see, there's no wobble in it at all. It just fits really nice, and so I'd give it complete thumbs up.
I was going to ask the block adjustment that's here. The whole entire block moves up, or is it just the?
It's like it's a little plastic. Looking in as best I can, it's a little plastic plunger, let's call it. Okay. And as you turn that screw in, it just pushes up.
Okay, good. So it's not a single screw that's going up.
No, the screw has got like
a hot spot in your gun real quick.
The screw's got a little plastic kind of a pad on it that's bearing on the dust cover.
Okay.
And so that part,
that's a smart design.
Yeah, I mean it's got kind of racy looks. I mean, I think it looks kind of cool. So I definitely give thumbs up, and it's very reasonably priced. That was the other thing. I looked at some online retailers, and you can get it for about $35-$40. Wow. I mean, it really, the last leather holster I bought, I think, was $100, $110, and so it looks really nice. It doesn't have that kind of industrial look like a lot of the Kydex holsters, and especially if you like the lining that's friendly on the finish, it's a good choice. So I give it definitely 2 thumbs up, 3 quarts blood. Heads roll, fingers roll. Joe Bob says, check it out.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of Kydex holsters, to be honest. I've tried to always avoid them as much as possible until when I was shooting production, somebody suggested I should get one of the drop-offset holsters for Blade Tech for my Glock 19, which I did. But typically everything I've always done has always been a leather holster because I just like leather. But at any rate, so speaking in terms of industrial looking, this is custom fit too. It fits almost all, 1911s. This is the Safariland 013 holster. Safariland has gone through quite a few different of these 01X, we'll call them holsters, over the years. And you were showing in one of the last episodes the 010.
Yep.
I think they had the 011, the 012, and now we're at the 013. And they've made a considerable amount of improvements, especially in the trigger block here and retention on the latest one. One of the things I really like about these types of holsters is the barrel support, I should say the muzzle support that you see in the front of the holster. You'll see, like on some of the Ghost holsters, or I think it's the Gungus Rebus or whatever whatever they are, but at any rate, they basically consist of the lock mechanism here and nothing else from there on out. I mean, it just grabs the gun literally at the lock, and the muzzle of the gun is exposed. Well, I can't tell you how many times I've seen guns pushed out of the lock mechanism when the competitor, after during the make ready, they'll load the gun, put it back in the holster, flip the lock off on the gun, sit down. Their thigh will end up pushing against the muzzle of the gun, pushes it out of the holster, the gun's laying on the ground, they're DQ'd. In fact, and I'm not certain, I'm not going to state this for 100% certainty, but I thought Taron Butler was actually DQ'd at an area match or something or other recently for exactly that happening. It was some big name shooter, let's put it that way, but I thought it was Taron.
Yeah. And a few small name shooters have fallen
Yeah, I've seen quite a few small name shooters had that exact thing happen. So that's one of the reasons I really like the holsters that protect the muzzle of the gun. And also, and you can see in this one, it's got kind of a nice shroud that protects the front sight. So if I run into something or whatever, it's not going to bust the front sight off the gun or anything like that. But I would definitely recommend, in terms of buying a holster, to get something with a protective shroud or whatever over the muzzle of the gun, so you don't end up unpleasantly surprised when you're seated in a bar stool or whatever somewhere for a start position, and all of a sudden your gun's not there, or you hear a thud. That's the worst thing, and it's like, what was that? And you suddenly know what it was. So at any rate, this holster is designed for, actually it can handle any 1911, pretty much of any muzzle length. The shroud here is adjustable up and down, in and out. So you can use a 6-inch gun, 5-inch gun, 4-inch gun, whatever the case may be. If you're using an open gun, it clears that, no problem whatsoever. But it is a very secure holster. I started using this holster for the Northwest Challenge that we shot back in July, and I've been shooting it in club matches ever since. It was fairly easy to get used to. It has a lot of adjustability in terms of cant, tilt, rotation, everything. So you can get the thing, perfectly set up to the exact way you want it. But one of the things that really impressed me on this is the retention of the holster, or the retention, I should say, of the gun in the holster. There is a lock here on the side. When that is locked, you cannot pull the gun out of the holster at all. It will not release. When you flip that off, there is a tension screw in the side, which I'm not going to adjust. Well, it's tightened up a little bit, but at any rate, the gun pops out of the holster when you do that. So it's a fairly secure lock. I'm putting it in. You can hear it snap into place. But this is the impressive part. So you can see here I did not lock it. The gun does pop out. I can take it. No net.
Wow.
Okay. That does not pop out.
Yeah.
My other holster that I
comes
had,
out one way.
it only comes out that way.
Nice.
It will not come out the other way. And you can see now I've got almost a nice red spot happening on my hand. So I did not lightly hit that. But my other holster that I have, if I did that, that gun would have ended up flying that way. A lot of the other holsters are out there that probably do the exact same thing. So I'm fairly impressed with that you can really hit, that hurts, hit that. Don't recommend doing that a lot, but anyway, hit that thing and you know that it's not going to pop out or accidentally get bumped. It only comes out when you pop it out of the holster this way. So I really highly recommend this holster. I'm really happy with it. Before I was using what's called a USA Pro holster, which was probably about, I would say, 5 or 6 years old. Older technology, but similar to the Ghost holster that's out today. That does have, my USA Pro had a muzzle support, but the lock mechanism is very similar to the Ghost holster, where it basically just grabs it by the trigger guard. But with that holster, would be possible to take the gun and push it forward out of the holster. If you bumped into something or whatever, had the gun get bumped, it could easily pop out. Fortunately, it never happened to me, but it was always something I was kind of like, leery of. And if I had a start position where I thought I might run into a problem where it would pop out, I'd leave the holster locked. And you can do the same thing on this. I mean, you can lock the holster in, and that gun is really not coming out now. And in some cases, depending on start positions or whatever, if you're starting and then running, let's say, 20, 30 yards for whatever the reason may be, to get to a shooting position, a lot of times people will leave their holster locked, so as they're running, it's not going to pop out when they get there. They flip the lock off, pull the gun, and go.
So what kind of tools do you need to make the adjustments, those numerous and interesting adjustments?
Actually, just a simple Allen wrench, and the nice thing is that you can see here of all
it's all the same size.
It's all the same size.
Okay.
So you carry one Allen wrench, and it will adjust the whole entire everything on the holster. One thing I wanted to point out here in the belt systems is that when we contacted Safariland, or I should say when Safariland contacted us and asked us what we wanted to run or what we wanted to try using, I have the older Safariland belt system, inner outer belt system. So the inner belt, it's Velcro. The inner belt is I guess we call it the hook part of the Velcro, and the outer belt is the fuzzy part of the Velcro. The hanger bracket that is on here has Velcro on it on the inside and of the tabs here that then attach it or secure it to the holster. The belt. Well, Safariland actually did something very smart recently. When they went to their newer belt system, they changed I'm going to call it the positioning of the hook versus the fuzzy part. So you can see here on the inner belt, the fuzzy part is now on the inner belt, and the outer belt has the hook part. So unfortunately, that did not work with my system. So I ended up contacting Safariland and asked them if they could send me a new belt hanger that had the Velcro the right way. Now, the smart thing about what they've done with this is that because of the fact that the fuzzy part is on the inside compared to what I have, with the old system, you take your belt off, let's say you sit in your car, and if you have like somewhat of like
hair?
No, worse than that.
Oh.
If you have like a fabric interior, you will stick to the seats with this, and it just rips up the interior, the seats of your vehicle or your truck,
Really?
whatever the case is. Yeah, I mean, there's been lots of cases where I've heard about people, just shredding their interior. They take their belt off, they get in their car, they leave their inner belt on, they're sticking to everything, it's grabbing, it's trying to hook.
Huh.
So by virtue of the fact that they've changed it so the hook part stays on the belt, you take that off, you have the fuzzy part here, and that's not going to stick to anything. So that was really a smart move on their part. A lot of the other holster manufacturers actually have already done that. CR Speed has gone to the fuzzy part for the inner belt. AA Shooting Academy or whomever they are, Double Alpha, whatever, Saul Kirsch's place, has also done the exact same thing. So Safari has kind of got with the program and did a similar thing with that, but it's a really smart move. Unfortunately, in my case, when I first got the holster, it wouldn't attach itself to the belt very well. I mean, it was on the belt, but it didn't stay put very good. And a quick phone call to Bobby down there and got me scored away literally in a day before the Northwest Challenge happened, and I was able to shoot it, and it's a very secure system. The other reason I didn't want to switch to the new belt is that I'm using CR Speed pouches on my existing belt. I really like the CR Speed pouches from the standpoint that there's spacers inside here that you can use this with, like, wide double stack STI mags. You can use it with Glock mags. You can use it with single stack mags. But the real reason I wanted to stay with my belt is that because the CR Speed holster or pouches are designed for the CR Speed belt, which is a little bit thicker than the Safariland belt, I had to take Velcro. Got some pieces of Velcro hook material, stuck it on the inside of the pouch, slipped it onto the under the belt, pulled it out, and these things are like molecularly bonded to this belt. You could put probably dynamite under this thing. It would blow up. You wouldn't have any pouches here, but the little hanger things would still be attached to fragments of the belt. You cannot move these things no matter what you do, and I did not want to go and try to take basically these pouches off this belt, try to put it onto something else, because there's no way that they're ever coming off. So at any rate, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to stick with my existing belt. And plus, from my standpoint, I really didn't think I needed a new belt, so I usually use the one that I had. So I'll say the other advantages of the new Safariland system is the mag pouches now can be removed quickly and easily from the hangers. So this is really good for people who are into 3-gun competition or whatever, is that they can change or reconfigure their belt very quickly. So as an example, let's say you had AR-15 magazines or whatever, you can pop your existing single stack mag pouch off, or double stack as the case may be, slap on an AR-15 mag carrier, and all of a sudden you're ready to go play 3-gun, which is a really nice system. The same thing is true, except in this particular configuration here. He's using the same standard hanger that I have, but they do have a hanger using the same, I think they call it the ELS mounting system, where the holster can literally be popped off. So if you had a race gun rig, like the particular holster here, you wanted to swap this off and put your Glock on, you could pop this holster off, put your Glock holster on here, change some of your mag pouches, have some for pistol, have some for AR-15, and you're basically ready to go and play 3-gun with it. So really smart system they have. That would be a magnet. And in the United States, that's not legal for use because magazines have to be placed in retention devices or in pockets.
Now, if I put a magazine on the magnet, isn't it in the magnetic field of the magnet, Steve?
My analogy to that is, let's say that you are required to operate your vehicle from within the car.
Okay.
So you get really creative, and you decide you're going to stick a big-ass magnet in your back pocket and sit on the hood.
Okay.
All right, so you are within the confines of the magnet, right? But do you think you're in the car?
No.
Probably not. I think you'd have a hard time explaining that to the state police, too, that trying to argue that you're in the car because the magnet that you have in your back pocket, you're within the confines of the magnetic field, so you're attached to the car and therefore you're in it.
Okay.
So this type of arrangement here, the magnet is legal in IPSC, but I don't believe it's legal in USPSA. In IPSC, basically, there is no requirement that the magazines shall be carried in pockets. It says they should be carried in. The difference between shall and should. Shall, obviously, is a kind of a dictation. It will.
Yeah.
And should is, it'd be a nice thing if you did. You don't have to.
Yeah.
You can do something else with them if you'd like, but it would be a good idea if you put them there, but you don't have to. So
Right.
that's the reason why you can use magnets and get away with it in IPSC, but not in USPSA. Of course, we'll probably get some feedback on that one. Love to hear how you can explain that a magnet is in the retention of a magnet.
Yeah, well.
In the retention device, yeah.
Okay.
So,
all right.
at any rate, but that's another story.
We'll do an episode on that later.
Yeah, all right. We'll bring John Ammett on in and discuss that one.
Right.
The same episode, you can bring Bill Wilson and you can talk about the 10 millimeter.
Sure.
I
sure.
heard about
It'll be a
that
special
one.
celebrity episode.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So that's about it for our Safariland review. Top-notch gear. I highly recommend the 5.67 holster that I was using. Check it out if you're looking for a versatile, inexpensive rig that you can use for IDPA or USPSA.
I should also point out that you and I have been using Safariland gear well before, Safariland was ever a sponsor or anything like that. I mean, I started out with Safariland gear back when I first started shooting 18 years ago. I mean, I was using the Safariland mag pouches and Safariland holster, and as you can see here, I'm using a Safariland belt. This belt's probably at least 10 years old, so...
Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, it lasts, it's well designed, they keep up. I mean, that's the other thing, too, is like Steve mentioned, a lot of the other race holsters are going to just this very minimalist design, and it really is no faster. I mean, you can clear the holster by lifting the gun literally like a quarter of an inch, but it still has the protection around the muzzle and the front sight that a lot of the other holsters don't have. And I with the holster like this is available, I wouldn't use the other kind. I see a lot of people using them, but I wouldn't use it when you can get something like this. And there's still a selection of holsters that have this type of protection around the muzzle, but it's something that Safariland, I think, has always had on their holsters.
They've always had that.
And a lot of the other holsters have gone away from it, and I wouldn't recommend using them.
And like I said, just based on the DQs that I've seen, and it's really unfortunate. I mean, it's almost no fault of the shooters action or whatever. They put their gun in their holster, they sit down, their leg hits the gun, it pushes it out. It's not like they pulled it out and dropped it or they did something stupid. They just happened to sit and they assumed that the gun would stay in the holster. It didn't. So it's kind of the way it goes. So that's the nice thing about this. You don't ever have to worry about anything like that. It's going to stay in there, and you can jam this thing in your leg all day long, and it's not going to come out. So, but like you said, it's good equipment. Highly recommend it. Even if they weren't a sponsor, I'd still do highly recommend it. So, at any rate.
Bye.